In Australia, foreign tourists Greg and Heather come to the pier to go on a cage diving tour that will allow them to swim with sharks. A vendor called Dave warns them that during the last trip, a shark ate a college kid's groin, but they don't believe him. At that moment tour guide Tucker arrives and asks the duo a few questions. He learns that nobody knows they're there and teases them for it. The group gets on Tucker's boat and during the trip, he shares stories of his near-death experiences with sharks. He's been swimming with them since he was a kid and even has a big scar on his body. When they reach the right spot, Tucker starts to throw chum into the water to attract the sharks. Heather is very nervous and gets startled by a fin appearing on the surface, which makes her decide she doesn't want to do this. Tucker tries to make her meditate to calm her down, only to start singing the Baby Shark song. She's shocked at first but she ends up laughing and relaxing. The duo then gets in the cage and Tucker lowers them into the water. There are sharks everywhere and Heather panics at the sight of so many teeth. Greg immediately comforts her and together they admire the beauty of these great beasts. Moments later the duo is back on the boat and Heather is very happy with the experience. Suddenly Tucker takes out a knife and stabs Greg before throwing him into the ocean while Heather screams. The next day, American surfer Zephyr enjoys the waves at the beach. Later at the grocery store she hears Moses asking for jumper cables, but they're out of stock. He asks Zephyr if she has any, but she pretends she doesn't. Then she pays for her cheap Slurpee and leaves, only to reveal she hid an ice cream tub inside the cup to steal it. On her way to the van, Moses asks her to give him a ride or he'll tell the cashier about her robbery, so Zephyr is forced to agree. During the trip, Moses talks a lot and Zephyr is very annoyed by him, so she shuts him up. When they finally find his car, she notices he has surfboards and they start talking about their love for surfing. Zephyr realizes he isn't so bad and Moses admits he wouldn't have told the cashier about the robbery even if Zephyr hadn't given him the ride. They start his car using her van and it activates the radio, which reveals they like the same music too. That night they get dirty in Zephyr's van while it's parked outside Moses' house. To prank her, he throws her fin key out the window. After they're done, they chat and learn more about each other. Moments later, Moses enters his house to make breakfast, but when he comes out the van is gone. Meanwhile Zephyr is at the beach ready to surf, however she realizes she forgot to grab her fin key. She searches the nearest truck for one and is startled by the owner, who happens to be Tucker. He gives her his extra key and praises her for being brave enough to surf alone at night. After Tucker leaves, Zephyr gets a message from Moses asking why she left. She tells him she wanted to catch the early waves but is hesitant to say yes when he asks to join her. Suddenly Tucker covers her head with a bag. Zephyr struggles against his hold, but Tucker doesn't let go until she passes out. After giving her an injection, he throws her on the back of his truck, covers her mouth with tape, and hides her in a surfboard case. Then he drives to the pier, where Dave's dog keeps growling at him. He carries Zephyr to his boat and locks her up. A few hours later Moses comes looking for Zephyr but only finds the abandoned van. He tries calling her too, however the phone is inside the vehicle. Meanwhile Zephyr wakes up handcuffed to a bed in a room with Heather and a bucket for their pee. She yells for help but the only one who can hear her is Tucker, who enjoys the noise during his breakfast. On a wall, Zephyr sees the name of another woman, implying Tucker has been doing this for a while. She keeps looking for something to pick the lock, however there isn't anything around. Heather explains nobody will be looking for her, and Zephyr admits she's in the same situation. Back to Moses, he's on his way to work when he sees Zephyr's van being towed. He immediately goes to the police station and explains that the van is Zephyr's home, so it's suspicious that she abandoned it. The cop asks Moses for Zephyr's full name but he doesn't know it, so the report can't be done. In the boat, Heather cries because she'll never see her mother again. She admits she should have listened to her because her mother hadn't wanted her to take a gap year. Zephyr shares that she grew up in foster homes and came to Australia to escape. She's also been in juvie. To lighten the mood, Zephyr tells a joke and Heather laughs. At that moment Zephyr notices that Heather's bikini top has an underwire and asks for it. Heather takes off her top and tosses it at Zephyr, who successfully gets the wire out. However, before she can pick the handcuff lock, Tucker enters the room. After giving them a sandwich and some water, he sits too close to Zephyr while talking about the predators in the water. He tastes Zephyr's sweat before leaving. Then Zephyr throws the top back to Heather and starts working on the lock, however she's feeling dizzy and drops the wire. It seems Tucker put something in the water because Heather passes out. Tucker comes back and takes the underwire before Zephyr passes out too. Moments later Zephyr wakes up handcuffed to a chair on the deck, where Tucker is setting up a camera and some lights. Heather is also there tied to a crane chain. Tucker says that God isn't in heaven, he's down there in the sea. He's seen Zephyr surf before and thought she looked very alive and spiritual, which is how this creepy hobby of his makes him feel. After cutting some of Heather's hair, Tucker wakes her up and she starts panicking. He talks about how amazing sharks are and complains about the myths and the stories as he activates the crane, which leaves Heather hanging over the water. Tucker lowers her slowly and leaves half her body out so he can enjoy recording her face as the sharks arrive to devour her in seconds. Zephyr yells in horror as a struggling Heather dies in front of her. As he turns the camera to record Zephyr too, Tucker calls it the best show on earth. When Zephyr is put back in the room, she carves her and Heather's names on the wall. At that moment she notices a spot of recent paint and scratches it off. She's horrified to find dozens of names hiding underneath. In the dining room, Tucker drinks and dances to enjoy the excitement he got from killing. The tape is put on a box with Heather's name and her lock of hair, which is then placed in a cupboard full of videos of all of Tucker's victims. He also grabs a fresh tape and writes Zephyr's name on it. Deep in the sea, Heather's body floats on. The next day Moses goes surfing, but he can't concentrate because he's still worried about Zephyr. He finds a broken surfboard near some rocks and wonders if she was in an accident. Meanwhile, Tucker brings breakfast for Zephyr, who kicks the tray and insults him. Tucker tries to justify his actions, saying sharks are part of the ecosystem and deserve to eat too, but Zephyr keeps insulting him. She points out that he thinks of himself as a mighty predator, but he's actually just a worm. This hurts his ego, so he leaves. Then Zephyr notices that the pee bucket has a handle and breaks it off. In the evening, Tucker has dinner while watching one of his tapes. Then he mixes some medicine to make a sedative and fills a syringe before going to the girl's room. When he's about to inject Zephyr, she stabs his neck with the bucket handle and he falls back, hitting his head on the other bed. Now she can take his keys and finally free herself. Unfortunately, Tucker wakes up and tries to grab her, so Zephyr runs to the door, intending to lock it. Tucker rushes after her and stops her from closing it, so Zephyr starts running again. When she takes the stairs, Tucker grabs her leg and gives her the injection. Zephyr kicks him to make him fall and rushes to the control room, where she tries to use the radio to ask for help, but nobody answers. Noticing a cruise ship nearby, Zephyr goes to the deck and starts yelling, but the music is too loud on the cruise for anyone to hear her. Tucker then appears with a knife, so Zephyr grabs the camera and throws it in the water. This distracts Tucker, giving Zephyr the chance to jump into the ocean too. She tries to swim as fast as possible, but sadly the sedative kicks in and she passes out, so Tucker has to fish her out. The next day the police finally start looking for Zephyr. While watching the procedure in the sea, Moses gets an idea. He opens an app called Wave Watch, which shows live footage of the beach for surfers. Moses searches the clip from the other night and sees a truck driving away from the spot with Zephyr's van. Zooming in reveals a logo that says Tucker Experience, so he searches for the company online. At the same time, Tucker stops by the pier and leaves the boat to get supplies. Zephyr wakes up in the room and tries to yell for help, but there's tape on her mouth again. By the time Moses finds a phone number and calls the boat, Tucker isn't there to get the call, so Moses leaves a message. At the supermarket, Tucker buys a new camera. On his way back, he gets stuck in traffic, and while he waits he notices a beautiful tourist who could be his next victim. Meanwhile, Moses finds an address on the website and drives to the pier. He pounds on the boat's door but nobody answers. Moses is about to leave when he hears a faint voice coming from the floor, so he breaks a window to get inside. With a hook in hand he desperately searches the boat and follows the noise until he finds Zephyr in the room. After he takes the tape off, Zephyr tells him to call the cops and find something to pick the handcuff locks. Moses rushes upstairs while calling 911, only to be knocked down by Tucker. He tries punching back, but Tucker is much stronger and makes him drop the phone before he can talk to the operator. Then Tucker throws Moses on the ground and he grabs the phone to say help before Tucker stabs him with a hook. After kicking Moses in the face, Tucker throws the phone away. Moses takes a bag and hits Tucker in the face to bring him down and starts choking him with the hook. He's about to succeed, but at that moment Dave appears and knocks Moses out, thinking he's an intruder. Dave also hears Zephyr and follows her voice, however Tucker kills him by stabbing him in the head with the hook. The dog is there too and keeps on barking, so Tucker growls back to scare him off. After locking the door to the girl's room, Tucker decides to take the boat to an island known as Hangman's Shoals. Moments later Moses wakes up handcuffed to the bed next to Zephyr's. He asks Zephyr why she ran after they got dirty, so she pretends it was because of the waves. However, Moses sees through her and can tell she's afraid of commitment because she hates herself, but he assures her he likes her for who she is. At that moment the boat stops and Tucker enters the room to knock Moses out again. The next time Moses awakens, he's tied up on the deck next to Dave's body. Zephyr is handcuffed to the chair and asks Tucker for mercy, but she's ignored. Tucker moves the crane and slowly moves Moses toward the water, where the sharks are already waiting. A desperate Zephyr asks him to take her instead of Moses, but Tucker only mocks her and keeps going. Once Moses is in the water, Tucker rushes to get his new camera while Zephyr tells him to stay still. Moses freezes and the sharks immediately lose interest, so they swim away. A frustrated Tucker brings Moses back and stabs him a few times before moving him again. His blood drips into the water, causing the sharks to return. At that moment one of the helicopters searching for Zephyr appears in the distance, so Tucker has to pause his plan and put the duo back in the room. Zephyr is worried that Moses may bleed to death, so she makes a hard choice. Her thumb gets dislocated, but before she can remove her hand from the handcuffs, Tucker shows up. He leaves some food and tells Zephyr that she's a shark like him before leaving. Afterward Zephyr tries to free her hand, but the dislocated thumb is still not enough. Seeing no other choice, she starts chewing. That night Tucker gets the sedative ready and enters the room, only to find Zephyr's bed empty and her thumb on the pillow. She comes out of hiding and locks the door before running to the control room, where she starts the boat. Tucker opens the emergency hatch to escape and rushes to cut the power, causing the boat to stop again. Then Zephyr sees a party on an island nearby, so she searches for a flare. When Tucker approaches her, she shoots the flare at him and runs away. She locks herself up in the kitchen and climbs on the counter, where she breaks the glass on the skylight to escape. As her harness gets stuck on the exit, Tucker breaks into the kitchen and pulls her down. They both slip and Zephyr gets a frying pan while he grabs a knife. Zephyr defends herself and stabs his hand before hitting him with the pan to bring him down before running again. Tucker runs to the deck and turns on a light to find Zephyr swimming toward the island. He rushes to get his harpoon but he loses sight of her, so he gets on his speedboat and sails as fast as possible. When Zephyr reaches the shore, Tucker jumps on her and knocks her out before taking her back to the boat. When Moses wakes up, he's handcuffed to the chair and Zephyr is hanging above the sea. Tucker throws water at her to awaken her before he starts talking about fish that like to fight back when fishermen catch them. A shark appears in the water because of Zephyr's blood, so Tucker lowers her and gets the camera ready. When the shark gets close, Zephyr kicks it and it swims away. A furious Tucker grabs his hook to poke at the shark to anger it, only for the shark to take the hook and swim off. Zephyr manages to steal the hook before the shark disappears. Afterward, Zephyr uses the hook to climb up the crane hook, however the shark reappears under her. Tucker startles Zephyr and causes her to fall into the water, where she sees the shark coming for her. The creature stares at Zephyr for a few seconds, but since it was also hurt by Tucker, it sympathizes with her and swims off. Now Zephyr can climb on the boat and sneak around. When she finds the harpoon, she uses it to shoot Tucker, sending him into the water. The huge shark comes back and jumps to catch Tucker with its huge mouth, eating him as revenge. Everything is recorded by the camera. The rope on the harpoon drags Zephyr down too because she's holding the weapon, however she lets it go and swims back to the boat. She rushes to get another flare and shoots it in the sky while yelling for help. Soon a ship in the island sounds its horn to announce that it's coming. Then Zephyr checks on an unconscious Moses, begging him to wake up because he's the only thing she has. Moses awakens and says, "I knew it." Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.